Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you on this September 15th, 2025. I got all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work, including some football news. Taylor Swift attended the Kansas City Chiefs game, and the Chiefs have failed to win for the second week in a row. We'll share what Travis Kelce has to say about how his engagement went down to Taylor. We'll get into that. I also have a very interesting update to the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni story. That being from the New York Times, as they have begun to change the words they use to describe the case. Could they be backpedaling from the expose that they did in coordination with Blake Lively, the bombshell against Baldoni? We'll share what words they are now using to describe the case. And then on the second half of the episode, we'll talk about this guy, James Talarico, running for senator of Texas, and the words he uses to describe where we need to be going as a country. I think it's important that we continue to have this conversation about what it means to kind of coexist in this large and very diverse country of ours. And I think he does a really good job of putting his sort of finger on the issues and also why we are being divided in a time when we should be unified. We should be coming together. So I'll be sharing that because you might have gone to church this weekend, but I'm going to take you there too. So all these stories and more, it all starts right now on The Rush. But I have to let you guys know, I mean, this is a big deal. I got to warn you that this week that we're in right now is peak asthma week. And here we have Dr. Rubin. I guess he covers allergies. Here's what he has to say.
You know that next week, the third week of September, is considered asthma peak week, where the most asthma attacks occur in the United States. This is due to a lot of factors, including changes in weather, the high ragweed pollen counts and mold counts, the back to school phenomenon where a lot of kids pass around respiratory viruses, which can also impact adults as well. There's also added air pollution. All these factors coalesce into seeing many children and adults ending up in the emergency room. And
the best way to fight that asthma week is with a pumpkin spice latte. That's all you got to do, right? No, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, so blame the kids, right? You going back to school, kids just sneezing on each other. They're all sharing the same pencil and iPad or whatever. So either way, don't bring that home to me. All right, let's move it on from there. Here we have Travis Kelce talking to Aaron Andrews before week 2. They had week 1. I think they had their game in Brazil, right? So the Kansas City Chiefs back in town. Here's what he had to say when, of course, asked about Taylor Swift.
Oh, I got to know, dry mouth, the nerves. How rattled did you get when you proposed? I haven't even asked you this, by the way.
She could tell that story. The palms were definitely sweating.
Really?
I was definitely, I'm an emotional guy, so there were a few tears here and there, but it's been an exciting ride up to this date, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with her.
That's the right answer. What else can you say? Now, listen, I proposed on day 2 of a week-long trip to Thailand, and my whole thought was, I got to get this over with. I can't keep a lie. I'm a blabbermouth. I can't not put this ring on this lady. You know what I mean? But even though I thought my now wife would say yes, spoiler alert, she did. It's horrifying. You know, you're sharing emotions. You're having this hopefully once in a lifetime moment. Although no shame for those that have done it multiple times. Do it. Winning first, you don't succeed. Keep proposing. She'll say yes eventually. Either way, that wasn't the highlight of the week. Unfortunately, we're going to get to Travis Kelce reacting to his week 2 loss. But this is interesting. Here's Taylor Swift, and they roll out this sort of divider so she can privately walk to the game. And honestly, I don't know. There's many people speculating as to why they did this. Is it for new security reasons? Obviously, but you would assume they were in a pretty secure area. Others have said it so Taylor Swift doesn't have to face a process server. As we know, she was being asked to be deposed by Justin Baldoni. I don't think that's the case. I mean, a process server, would you really buy a ticket to see them? And you've been served. It's like, do you even have to ask Taylor Swift, are you Taylor Swift? It's like, she is. Just serve her already. Either way, I don't think that's the case. But there it is. They got her on lockdown, And again, I'm sure it's just got some, I'm sure it's got to be security reasons why, but then they have this person just wheel her out there like it's some big magic trick. I don't know. And of course, speaking of magic tricks, here is Travis Kelce no longer happy. I get it. And look, Patrick Mahomes, this is the first time he's been 0-2 to start a season. And listen, as a New England Patriots fan, we finally got our win. We're 1-1. But I got to say, Brady's got, what does he have, 6 rings? How many? 7? How many does he have at this point? He's got arthritis from so many rings on his finger. Point being, everyone said Patrick Mahomes, he's going to catch Tom Brady. It ain't always that easy, but again, we'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out there. Now we've got Kylie Kelce. This would be, I guess, the sister-in-law to Taylor Swift, which she's going to marry Travis Kelce. Kylie Kelce's married to Jason Kelce, they're brothers. Here's why she says she doesn't like to name drop Taylor and Travis on her podcast. The irony is she's doing it. She's telling us why she's not going to talk about Travis and Taylor.
I would like to put out that I have made a very conscious effort to not discuss Taylor and Travis on this podcast because news outlets, tabloids, and AI, quite frankly,
and me,
like to post only the quotes that they grab from whatever I say in reference to them. And here's where I think there is a disconnect. People do not realize that you at home, you have your family, and in your family, you might have a brother-in-law and they might be dating someone. You might have a soon-to-be sister-in-law. But you have a relationship personally with them that no one else is involved in.
And by the way, I completely agree with her. You don't want to know none of what she's doing on her podcast. You don't want to get in the way of the pop star. I mean, have you seen how the way Jason Kelce talks about Taylor Swift right now? I mean, they put a ring on her, so it's kind of official. But they didn't want to mess this up for Travis. Could you imagine cock blocking your brother-in-law because you talked about his pop star girlfriend? So hey, I get it. I understand. Lips are sealed. Maybe eventually Taylor will do your podcast and it'll break the internet again. But in the meantime, I understand. Now, Taylor, if you want to come on the show, if one of my relatives was dating a pop star, everyone would know about it, but that's not the case. My family, not that cool. How about this? Speaking of a comic who will say what's on his mind, here's Theo Vaughn on the sidelines at Vanderbilt here, saying that I guess he was promised a date with the quarterback's mom. Have a listen.
Diego Pavia wins this game. He promised you he would set you up with a date with his mom.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
He's a nurse, and I've always wanted to. My goal is I would like to marry a nurse one day, so that's why I think
smart.
He was thinking about
So there it is. So again, I guess his mom's a nurse, and that's how I guess you're getting older as a comedian when you get set up with the quarterback's mom. But hey, why not? Maybe Theo Vaughn will be in the quarterback's family sometime soon. When we come back, I'll have more on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni as the New York Times have just entered, or I should say re-entered, the docket. We'll have that story next. Well, here it is. Memorandum of law in support of the New York Times Company's motion for judgment pursuant to federal whatever the hell that is. What's the purpose of this 10-page document that the New York Times are now bringing back into the court? Well, they basically want their case to permanently just go away. I get it, don't we all? Consolidated Defendant New York Times submits this memo of law in support of its motion for entry of a final appealable judgment in favor of the Times and against Consolidated Plaintiffs, Wayfair Studios. So essentially, Wayfair tries to sue for defamation. It gets dropped, dismissed. But what's interesting is the preliminary statement of what the New York Times is saying here. Some fine folks on Reddit were able to point this out. I want to read this for you. And again, this is because the New York Times wrote this article right here where it was called "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine." Why is this important? Well, they wrote this entire article and then, at the very last second, tried to get Justin Baldoni's side hours before they published it. Of course, it was a smear job. Whether they knew they were part of the smear or whether they were useful idiots, who knows? But many things in the article were taken wildly out of context. Their preliminary statement, they write, "This action arises out of an article written by the Times in December of 2020 2024, which reported on the contentious dispute between actor Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, stemming from the movie It Ends With Us. As the article reported, the actors vehemently disagreed about creative control of the movie, but Lively also claimed that Baldoni and others engaged in inappropriate behavior on set and then created an online smear campaign to tarnish her reputation, leading her to file a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. Following the article's publication, Baldoni and the other Wayfair parties sued the Times in California. Lively then sued the Wayfair parties in this court. The Wayfair parties countersued Lively and others, and the Wayfair parties then brought the Times into the New York fracas, adding it as a defendant in their amended complaint in this action. So what's interesting about this, as brought to light by people in the Reddit community, it ends with lawsuits. What's interesting is they said that he was accused of engaging in inappropriate behavior. That's some pretty sanitary way to put it. When you look back on the actual article, you see that he was actually accused of way worse stuff. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because words matter. And these shots that were initially fired, it's like you can whitewash it, you can backtrack it as much as you want. But here they say that she alleges sexual harassment in retaliation amongst other claims. The complaint filed with the California Civil Rights Department is a precursor to a lawsuit. Now, those that wrote this article for the New York Times knew that they were really bulletproof with regard to not getting stuck in any defamation battles, because they did pull this from the California Civil Rights, what's it called? The filing that Blake Lively made. Now, that's interesting because they kind of had the document before, like it wasn't public. So Blake Lively had to have given it to them. We don't know all the things that went on, and maybe we never will. But I think it just goes to show how, even though Blake Lively filed this document or this complaint with the California Civil Rights, even though she did all that, which basically made her immune, because it was like he can't respond to that. It's like she filed it. It's not defamation because it's through that. But at the same time, she filed it, probably not thinking it would go public, was willing to hang that over his head. And by the way, if it was true what she was claiming he had done, then she takes every right step, to go there. But the fact that she was then taking that to then kind of leverage the New York Times to, almost co-opt, almost like confirm these allegations by saying, here's what she said, and this is all of her story, by not getting Baldoni even the chance to share his side, it's extremely reckless. Don't you guys think? I think most people do. And now that they're saying, you know what, let's let bygones be bygones. What's the big deal? She was accusing him of inappropriate behavior. No, she accused him of sexual harassment, and you aired the story. So here's where it gets interesting. In addition, it is inequitable to require the Times to sit in limbo while the distinct and highly contentious legal dispute between Lively, Baldoni, and the remaining parties is determined. Currently, if the Wayfair parties wanted to appeal the court's June 9th decision as to the Times, they could not do so until this entire case is resolved, either through summary judgment or at a trial. Allowing the Wayfair parties to instead appeal a final judgment now would mean putting an expeditious end to the claims against the Times if the Second Circuit affirms the well-reasoned decision of this court. In the unlikely event the Second Circuit were to reverse this court's decision, the parties would begin discovery sooner, before significant time has passed since the events underlying the claims. On the other hand, if the Wayfair parties could not appeal the decision until some indeterminate point in the future when the rest of this litigation concludes, the Times would be forced to begin discovery potentially years after the article was written. While the Times recognizes that the possibility of fading memories and the necessity of monitoring a docket indefinitely are generally not sufficient reasons for the court to grant Rule 54B relief, this is one of those actions where the court should exercise its discretion to do so. This is a meritless defamation action about a matter of public interest brought against the Times, as New York courts have explained time and again, and then they get into the case law. I mean, look, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of power that the press has, and I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in that right, and I also think it sucks when people possibly abuse it. right? And I think that's the case here. But again, I don't think you should not have the right or the freedom of the press. I think what should happen is you should just shame the hell out of the newspapers and out of the journalists who do a real shitty job with their journalism. I'm no expert, but if I'm going to spend 3 months writing an article, I'm going to try to get the other side hours before the article's released. This article was hammered down, airtight, my guess is for weeks before they decided to release it, and they didn't give Baldoni more than a couple hours to respond to some pretty wild claims. All right, what else can you say? Let's move it on from there. So I'm telling you this, it's not just the events that happened last week with the shooting. It's something we've been talking about for months on my channel, bringing people together. That doesn't mean not criticizing political leaders. It means I'm done criticizing people who voted for political leaders that might be doing things that are stripping away our rights, tax cuts for the ultra wealthy. So, there's so many hospitals. I think they said up to 750 rural hospitals will be closing due to this new big beautiful bill, the lack of funds that are, and we're not lowering the debt. It's only being worse for the middle class. It's the worst times it's been since the Gilded Era as far as the wages from the middle class or the lower class versus the elite. Now, the reason I'm saying all this is we need to come together. That doesn't mean we need to just accept our fate. It means we need to stop fighting left versus right, and we need to start looking up versus down. Those that are actually doing the robbing of all of us through, billionaires funding campaigns, the tech billionaires getting their way, and automation taking away jobs, and all of the things that are going on that are not helping you and myself and all of the other folks in the middle class. Here's Representative James Talarico out of Texas. He's running for senator in Texas, and he just strikes a nerve. There's a reason why his Instagram has passed 1 million followers. There's a reason why he was featured on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he continues to go viral. Nobody's striking a chord more right now than he is, and he's a voice to watch right now, not just because he's running for office, but he knows how to put it. We need to quit fighting with each other. We need to hold the powers to be accountable.
They want us at each other's throats. They want us focused on how we're different instead of on how we're the same. I am tired of being pitted against my neighbor. I am tired of being told to hate my neighbor. It's been more than 10 years of this kind of politics. Politics as blood sport. Politics as professional wrestling. It tears families apart. It ends friendships. And it leaves us all feeling terrible all of the time. There is a deep hunger in this state and in this country for a different kind of politics.
And I think one of the big issues with this divide, it really goes hand in hand with social media. We got too good at wanting to dunk on each other, that we're not having good faith debate. We're not even getting anything accomplished, right? If there's one side that's in power, the other side completely tries to derail any good things from being done. We saw this when Joe Biden was president. There was literally a bill that they had to help with the immigration issue, and Trump basically, as he was running for president for his second term, his third time running, but for a second term, he told everyone, vote against this. We can't have a political win for Biden. Now, that's just ridiculous that this is the world we live in, where very rich and very wealthy politicians are able to afford to ride out whatever economic storm there is, ride out whatever safety issues are presented, all so that they can not get a win for their adversaries and wait for themselves to get that win. This is not only selfish, it's absolutely psychotic, regardless of what side of the political aisle you are on. And we need to realize that it's going to get bad out there. Grocery prices are rising. None of the things that are happening right now are leading to jobs coming back to our country, as the jobs report keeps plummeting. It's just hundreds of thousands less than they thought. One thing after another. And the tariffs are just starting to kick in, and we need to come together and realize, I understand if there's Democratic leaders that you think dropped the ball. I understand if there's Republicans that you think dropped the ball. Who's going to rise up right now and bring us back together? And it's going to be us, the constituents, the voters, who have to be fed up enough that they actually start getting shit done. I don't know if we're there yet. I hope we're getting there. Now, as far as church goes, a lot of people went to church for the first time this weekend in a while. I'll be quite honest with you. I did not. I didn't go to church. My family's begging me to go. I think we got a good little thing going on here. I like where my spirituality is at. I'm okay right now, but thanks for praying for me, folks. I appreciate prayers of all sorts from whatever God you kneel down to, as long as it's all healthy and happy and positive stuff and it's not tearing us apart. Now, the problem is so many people are using church, Jesus, God, Yahweh, Allah, Buddha, I don't care, but it's mainly Christian nationalists. They're using words of the Lord that were transcribed through the Bible. A lot of them were never actually said, and they're using it to continue to divide us. They're using it to pick political sides. That's why I love James Talarico. He might be a Democrat, but he's like an 8th generation Texan, right? And he actually tells you what Jesus was actually preaching in a way that reminds us the very basic principles of love.
Christian nationalists say they want to base our laws on the Bible until they read the words of Jesus. Release the prisoner, welcome the stranger, liberate the oppressed, put away your sword, sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor. Instead of posting the 10 Commandments in every classroom, why don't they post money is the root of all evil in every boardroom? Why don't they post do not judge in every courtroom? Why don't they post turn the other cheek in the halls of the Pentagon? Why don't they post it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange? Because they're not interested in legislating Christian values. They are only interested in legislating Christian dominance.
Jeez. I mean, go easy on us. It's only Monday. Now, listen, I love that we're having this conversation. And I really, really mean this. My audience, I mean, when I talk about this type of stuff, because we've got a lot of Christians out there, and it's not about bashing them. I've talked about Christianity for years, raised Catholic, I know a decent, amount, although I would say Catholics are usually not that informed because there's a lot of casual Catholics out there. You got your devouts and then you got the rest of us, and, but the point is that people, we get so triggered and think it's like, oh, you're telling me my faith shouldn't exist. And it's like, no, we're just saying a lot of good-natured people have been suckered from either radicalized pastors or just church leaders that try to divide. I mean, I've seen this play out. I live in a deep, dark red state now, and I've seen this play out where words will just be used and you're supposed to blindly follow them. And if you really do want to support the teachings of Jesus, you should be absolutely rejecting so much of what's going on out there, so much of the idolizing of the president, as if he's literally, there's AI images of him hugging God. What are you doing?
Real Christians need to start flipping tables. I 100% agree with you. Let me ask you this though. Where did he flip the tables? Where did Jesus flip the tables? Did he do it in the homeless shelter? Did he do it in the bar or club, whatever you call it? Down south we call it the bar. Did he flip tables in the bar? No, he flipped tables in the temple. Why? Because they were misusing the temple. They were misusing the temple the same way these Christian nationalists are misusing the Word of God, misusing Scripture, and misusing the name of Jesus. And at this point in time, I'm sitting around going, I don't want to sit at a table that I'm called to flip.
It's so powerful. And I look at it the same way with police officers. Most are good, but the bad ones a lot of times are hidden in the system, right? You could say the same thing with the Catholic Church, where they were hiding the bad priests. They were just moving them to different churches, which is horrible, right? They weren't actually stopping the problem with some of these really, really problematic situations, right? But you look at that with the police, and it's like, no, if there's a bad cop, rat him out. Complain to your bosses about him. Weed out the bad cops. And I think Christians need to do a better job of weeding out those that are using Christianity as snake oil salesmen, not just to profit off of themselves and develop some church that doesn't practice what they preach, but those that are just like using hateful, harmful rhetoric to divide us, right? The Christians should be out there just like absolutely loving their neighbors, regardless of whose flag they fly on the front porch, regardless of the color of their hair, the color of their skin. You know, we should be loving each other and knowing that we all have a vote at the table. But instead, this is Taylor Davis here. He does such a good job talking about that flipping of the table. If Jesus came to the United States right now, I think he would be disgusted by what he sees, by so many people that wear a cross in his name. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of these so-called Christians would call Jesus some woke libtard or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? I truly do. You know, Jesus was he was ahead of his time. But in today's world, it's almost like he's behind.
Why am I sitting at a table? Why would I allow myself to sit at a table that he calls me to flip? And all they're doing is they're taking scripture and twisting it to fit their own version of morality, which conveniently lifts them up. It's what life's losers do. They've got to construct something that lifts them up because their own skills and merit don't do it. And they're taking that twisted version of morality and putting a Christian jersey on it. And I'm sitting here on the field going, wait a minute. Why are they on the field? Matter of fact, why are they on the Jumbotron? Why? They're shaving points for our team. They're throwing the game. You need to get them on the sideline, back in the locker room, and on the bus. Out of here. So what we need to do, here's what you need to do, okay? Here's what we need to do. We need to stretch, get warmed up. You don't want to pull nothing and start flipping tables.
Jeez, that's a metaphor, folks. No crimes out there. But honestly, we've been beating our fists on this desk for a while now. It's like, let's go back to the basics, right? You have a football team, you're not doing well, go back to the basics. The basics are loving your neighbor. The basics are doing things that raise the frequencies of love, because that's the greatest energy to have. Not hating on others because they don't agree with you or they're not, as far along culturally as you are. I get it. The hate can exist on both ends. This isn't me wagging the finger at one side versus the other. It's wagging the finger at those that do wear that Christian jersey and aren't saying anything about those that are abusing it. All right, that's it for us. We'll be back this afternoon. We'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.